Beautiful people, hello, greetings, welcome to another installment of League Unlock. We welcome you with open arms into our luxurious digs as we continue rolling through the loveliness and just cozy feeling that is LCK highlights here in week 1 of the spring split. More teams still waiting on making their debut. Really the last few, I believe, are on today's dockets. And you had Hanwha Life versus T1, and you'd think you'd be starting to kind of be pressing for these storylines carrying over from last year, but fret not, you still have Haru playing against his former squad in T1, even though he didn't start many of the games because he was behind Clid in that roster. He was still part of the squad throughout all of their incredibly successful 2019 run. So yes, there's still some storylines, and he's familiar with at least 3 of the players that'll be on that starting roster. So, you know, it's a little bit of added oomph for him to get a win in this matchup. Chovy, the first time he's not on a Samsung organization, and Lahen's making his debut with Hanwha Life. And in game 1, the biggest surprise was Vista actually starting at AD carry. You had Zenit and Lava on this roster, but Vista used to be a support, and now he's starting as the AD carry. If you snuck him in DraftKings, that is some absolute bonus points to have him rolling out. Jungle Diana, Cuz is not on Gragas, believe it or not. He's on J4. The 2-man EQ combo, the dive looks great, but wait a sec. First Cuz goes down, Teddy also goes down. First blood and a 2-for-1 over to Hanwha Life in a 3v2 scenario. Not an ideal start for the T1 boys. And in the top lane, it was set for Chovy, absolutely dunking on Roach, who got the start on that Mordekaiser. And Cuz is just left to walk away because 2 more members are coming up for Hanwha Life. It is Tempt on that mid lane rumble, and Cuz, you avoided the equalizer for a bit, but he gets blown up. Another kill for him. Now 7-3, Hanwha Life taking control of this early game as Chovy dunks into the backline, completely blows up Teddy on the Aphelios before he can actually do anything in that team fight. The Jungle Diana chases down with Chovy, and they're bloodthirsty. They're looking for more. Tempt goes down to Roach on the other side, but Chovy being an absolute bro and taking the turret for an absolute eternity as he builds up the grit stacks. He misses the flash combo, but they distracted a few. Han will win that fight. Then you have this TP in again from Chovy, and Faker is left alone on that Aatrox mid. He gets slam dunked down. A nice equalizer from Tempt, and the rest of the crew comes in. Vista picks up the kill onto Roach, and the set again knocks everybody back. Not everybody. One single person effort on the Leona, which is a pick we continue to see across all major regions. Now 16-6, that's 4 Mountain Dragons for Hanwha Life. So not only is that set incredibly tanky, the Diana is like a main tank. Shen is unkillable. Tempt cleans up everybody on the Rumble. And just nobody's really taking damage with those 4 mountains. It is absolutely insane to stack those up. 20 kills to 6. A seriously convincing Game 1 win for Hanwha in the underdog role coming into this series, especially after T1 already won a matchup. Second game, the Vayne pick comes in for Chovy to try and counter Kana, who subs in for Game 2 in that top lane matchup. And around the dragon, because you know that's where the early game fights are going to go through. Lahen's is on the Rakan. He tries for the flank action. It doesn't go so well. Cuz is back on the Gragas. He grabs the dragon and a kill on the Elise. It goes over to T1, and all of a sudden things were completely rolling in their way. They would turn into a Baron. This was an incredibly slow-paced game. They grab an inhib, and then, oh no! The Faker recall, which is something that we've seen in the latter half of his career, is kind of these questionable recalls. He mistimes it with the rest of his squad. It ends up not really mattering at all as 2 inhibs down. It's just the very next push, T1 comes into the base and runs it back. Faker had a beautiful triple kill that stopped the Realm Warp to really get them back into this game. Not back into this game. T1 was in control for the majority of it. It was never really in doubt. Good bounce back for them as they tie the series up heading into that third and decisive game. And this is where the pick bans get a little bit crazy because we got Soraka and Yuumi on the same squad. You have Ornn in the mid lane for Tempt and Chovy playing that Soraka. And the Olaf jungle for Haru, but it's Cuz who has the action early, grabbing first blood. Faker, a big part of that one to get him rolling. Teddy gets a kill on the Misfortune, but the Aphelios cleanup is a little bit there for Vista as he ties the kill score up, and it was very even until SKT kind of started pulling ahead in the gold differential as Haru was cleaning people up, but the Slick Lantern from Effort allows him to survive. T1, it looked to be going pretty well for them. Okay, we'll start up this Baron, it should be fine, we'll grab this fight, but check out Haru on the Olaf because he had the Yuumi with him and the Soraka heals, and he just starts obliterating the entire backline for T1. Not only is he not taking damage, but he is absolutely bopping everybody in that backline. The Aatrox survives for Kana, but it doesn't matter. Baron goes over to Hanwha life, and then again, this Olaf just flashing into the backline with the movement speed boost of the Yuumi. He is absolutely terrifying. You can't CC this guy. He's perma-healed. It doesn't even matter if you have healing reduction. He is just putting out some disgusting amounts of damage while also not actually taking any. And this is for the Dragon Soul. So T1, even though they lost the fight, they still want to contest, but Haru does secure it, and eventually Teddy is going to get chased down. So that is the Soul plus a couple of kills over to Hanwha. Now it's the Elder Dragon that we're fighting over, plus the Baron buff already there. T1 have to contest this or they lose the game, but you know the story. Again, it's Haru flashing in with the support crew with him. You look at this lineup and you'd think, where's the damage come from? It's only Aphelios, really, with an orange Soraka and a jungle Olaf, but the Yuumi did crazy damage, and the Olaf in particular was looking like TFT with 3 items, maybe even a 3-star Olaf, because it was unkillable. There was nothing that T1 could do to Haru, even when they had all these grievous wounds items. It does not matter because the healing is so absolutely insane. Yumi's a pick that definitely fell out of favor, and this was very close. If he didn't have the GA, maybe Hanwha wouldn't have won it on this push, but they absolutely do. They come through with a win that most people were not expecting. T1 big favorites in this matchup, but Hanwha looked great. Chovy had an incredible, for a guy who was so heavily criticized throughout his last 2 years, really, on Gen G. He had a great debut series with his new squad, and in that third game, it was Haru who picked up that MVP, and deservedly so. 11, 1, and 3 on that Olaf. 11 kills was one more than the entire lineup of T1 had in that third and final game. So Haru gets a little bit of revenge against his former squad. If you looked at the damage numbers after that game, Teddy did over 54,000, which is more than twice anybody else in the game. So the theme of T1 losing a game and Teddy still looking rock solid in that bot lane, and fully expect him to be their most consistent player throughout the entire year. That remains true, but that comp from Hanwha Life, if it's something that rears its ugly head again and again and again throughout Spring Split, we're already hoping for some kind of nerf to that top lane Soraka. If you combine it with Yuumi, it's all other levels of disgusting. So please, Riot, bring the nerf hammer for Soraka. But Hanwha wins their first game of the season, and T1 falls to 1-1. Coming up after the break, the final, or one of the final teams to make their debut of 2020. It is Dragon X, Deft, Chovy, and the rest of the boys. Ladies and gentlemen, we have returned to League Unlock, ripping through LCK Week 1 highlights, and one of the most excited teams that people were for in the offseason was Dragon X, one of the last teams were waiting to make their debut in 2020. Well, wait no more. They kick things off against KT Rolster, but the roster's a little different and not exactly what you would have been expecting, because Doran not starting in the first series. He was suspended for intentionally feeding in a solo queue game, but people really think that the reason he was banned was for a little bit of whistleblowing against Riot Korea, because pro players typically would not get banned for what happened to him in a solo queue game, and players have done a whole lot worse and been a lot more toxic in games and have not been suspended. But nonetheless, Doran not in the lineup for game 1 for Dragon X, which means Chovy goes to the top lane and Quad comes in to the mid lane, who is a 17-year-old solo queue player. But Chovy gets to play Set in the top lane, Quad gets the Kiana, and Deft is on the Ziggs pick in the bottom lane, something we wouldn't expect to see in this season. That's something way back in Season 8 that you were seeing a little bit of. But here is that Ziggs pick getting yoinked in by the Blitzcrank and eventually going to go down. KT actually coming out ahead on this one as Kuro comes in on the LeBlanc as well as Quad, who does pick up 1 kill, but Kuro's going to grab a bonus 1 onto Korea on that Tom Kench. And here's Quad trying to get the Aphelios down. He burns the double flash and then, oh no, that's all his abilities. The nice ward in the bush, which by the way is the biggest thing that people don't do in solo queue to get vision, but aiming does it and gets the outplay in the 1v1. And then Kuro, there was a theme of him blowing up Piosik multiple times on that LeBlanc pick, and so get used to that happening as Chovy dives into the backline with Set, and you know, with a Tom Kench, that character is basically unkillable with that disgusting shield on the grit. As Sohwan comes in with the Mordekaiser, he's just going to go down to Deft. Kuro puts out some nasty damage on the LeBlanc, but he's going to get blown up by Quad. Mid lane fight goes the way of DRX to kind of get back into this game. They were down heavily early. The Rek'Sai is going to escape. Bono does not go down. And now it is time to battle over the Ocean Drake because it is a Dragon Soul, and Piosik, he wants to get the steal because he doesn't want to give up 4, but again, it's him just getting blown up by the LeBlanc, and this time it's KT on the Baron. There's really no chance to actually contest. They run it down to the bottom lane after breaking the mid turret to start pushing for the inhib, and there is a flank attempt, sort of, by DRX, but it does not go so well. The gold lead is too big. The Dragon Soul, the Baron buff, it is too strong. Quad is the last man standing, and he would eventually get taken down by the Aphelios as well. KT Rolster looking good in game 1. Kuro in particular on that LeBlanc goes 6-1-4, and Piosik in his debut on the LCK 0-5-6 on the Gragas, which not exactly what you want to see. Quinn in the top lane for Chovy. Leona goes over to Tucson. And the Cassiopeia pick is Quad's favorite pick from solo queue. He was kind of a one trick that people saw before. So happy to get that pick in his hands. And early on, that first blood goes over to Piosik on the Lee Sin this time. And it's this TP in from Sohwan. Whoops-a-daisy. Not only do you TP late in a 1v3, but you come in at half health. Yes, you're handing over yet another kill. And then things started to get a little bit rough for Tucson and the boys. He goes deep. It looks like it's a good play onto Deft, but he flashes out and the trade kill goes over. And then this Alistar pick into the Leona is something that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of in the LCK. He's just so good at countering that staple pick. And Alistar is a champ that's almost always meta. But Tucson, you've seen this is now the 3rd time. He kind of steps a little bit too far forward, and when you're already behind on that Leona, well, you know it's rough being an 0-4 support because you're basically not that much stronger than a super minion. Slash, you're probably actually weaker than a super minion as Tucson goes down again. Now 12-2. Now Chovy finally gets involved in the game. He was smashing the laning phase, but not really involved in these team fights. This time he is. He cleans up a couple of kills on the side. We're diving inner turrets. Only 2 survive for KT, and then Deft and Piosik trying to chase it down. And now we're onto the bot lane. The other side, these team fights, I mean, you're not even sniffing a kill if you're KT Rolster. Alistar gets low for Korea, but that is about it. A few more kills, 4 more over. It ends up being 20-2 in kills. And Tucson on that Leona, 0-8-1. Not exactly what you want to see. KT did get both Rift Heralds in the early game, so they had that going for them. We roll into game 3, and Malrang comes in for Bono in the jungle. It's after an 0-8-1 performance, Tucson says, you know what, let's run it back. I'll play the pick again. This time, gets involved early. It's a nice roam in the mid lane. He grabs first blood. He has a nice engage in the bottom lane onto that same counter pick, Alistar for Korea, and he grabs another kill. So awesome start for Tucson. Things look great, but then it's the warding, it's the face checking without any vision around. He gets picked off once by the Rek'Sai, and now he's engaging a little bit too eagerly. Again, with no vision. He actually had vision in the bush in that, and he still went for it. He solar flares himself, pops the stopwatch. He's still just going to go down as Quad is on the Casio again. Chovy's on the Aatrox in the top lane, and that bullet time doesn't do a whole lot out of aiming. It's a nice Cataclysm from Malrang, but Kuro gets a little bit too excited on the Syndra, steps forward. Piosik delivers with the flash on Burrow, gets the ulti to pick off the Syndra on the side of the fight, and the rest of KT tried to save Kuro or tried to go into the fight with him. They all end up dying, or at least 2 of them end up dying as well. 6-2 now in kills. It goes to a Baron, and later on it's another Baron contest. Not much. Well, Balrang was actually close with that smite over the wall as he flashes in. Doesn't get it. The smite is true for the rookie Piosik. He grabs the Baron, grabs the kill on the outside as well. And this was kind of the last chance saloon for KT to get back into this game. The fight looks okay initially. It's kind of back and forth. You picked off Quad early on in the fight, but it's another 2-man knock-up from the Rek'Sai, and Chovy is just absolutely obliterating. All 3 games, he dominated the laning phase in his off role. Just speaks to how mechanically gifted and talented this guy is. He could probably be a top 3 top laner in the LCK with some of the elite players up there. But Dragon X, they do the reverse sweep. Somebody got excited for KT in game 1. CV Max congratulating the boys, and yes, KT is kind of looked at as towards that bottom tier, bottom 3 rosters coming into this year, but that is not even the full Dragon X roster. Chovy playing off role. Quad is... There were 3 rookies making their LCK debuts in that match. Just wrap your head around that. It was all veterans on KT roster, and the two of the main rookies, Piosik and Korea, actually nabbed both Player of the Game awards. It wasn't Chovy, it wasn't Deft, it was the guys making their LCK and stage debuts for DRX, so good for them. They are the big question marks, of course. Doran should be back for the next series for Dragon X, which means Chovy shifts back to the mid lane. And I think they put him top just because they have the utmost confidence in him, whereas Quad, you don't want to take him in his debut game on stage, throw him in an off role, and hope that he holds his own. Chovy, you have absolute confidence in him, and he gave it to Sowan basically all 3 games with 3 different champions. So, I mean, and a lot of them aren't even mid laners. Set and Quinn, you're not really playing mid too often. I suppose Set you could. But Dragon X start the year off 1-0. KT fall to 0-2. But both times they did take 3 games to lose. So they have that going for them at the very least.